we've talked about Eastern traditional culture and its comprehensiveness. Now, let's focus on the concept of traditional Chinese medicine. Traditional Chinese medicine in China has a very complex cultural background. We know the three main threads of Chinese traditional culture: Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism. Taoism and Confucianism are native cultures. Some might argue that had impact on traditional Chinese medicine, more direct, while Buddhism's content is also relevant, which had less of an apparent influence, while elements from various philosophies had a significant influence. Among them, agricultural-related disciplines had the greatest influence. Certainly, you can consider it part of natural science, or as an aspect of ancient culture. For example, agricultural meteorology and agriculture geography significantly impact medicine. Military strategy also significantly influences traditional Chinese medicine. So, studying traditional Chinese medicine isn't really just about classroom theory. It also requires certain background knowledge. The problem is, over the past 7 years, we haven't focused much on studying cultural backgrounds. We only encountered in our textbooks some aspects of cultural background knowledge. There may have been some detailed introductions. I don't remember it being that detailed. Perhaps some disciplines offered elective courses. It's hard to say how adequate they were. Many people just give you a basic overview of ancient culture. They finish the introduction. If it doesn't include specific medical knowledge, listening to it wouldn't help much, because you won't know how to apply it. You just know about it. In fact, this approach might not be that effective. I'm here. You admitted students this year for a traditional Chinese medicine experimental class. It seems that our school has admitted a traditional Chinese medicine experimental class. They require, in the second year, to take a course on Zhouyi and traditional Chinese medicine. It includes a lot of structured traditional cultural content. I'll be teaching that one. It's likely in the second semester of their sophomore year. Not sure if it complements your course, but if you have time, if you're interested, give it a listen. Finally, exploring scientific thinking. With memory, we'll skip the topic of science for now. Forcing it on you wouldn't make sense, so we'll cover it later. Let's delve into it further. Another aspect we'll cover is memory. Traditional Chinese medicine discusses memory. Western medicine also discusses memory. However, traditional Chinese medicine places more emphasis on it. Why? Western medicine sees itself as purely natural science. Pure natural science stresses precision. Is there a tension between precision and recall? I can't deny that he doesn't have personal skill. For example, like a surgeon's scalpel. How well you perform is that skill, but Chinese medicine offers greater leeway in skill. Take acupuncture at the same point. Why does their insertion work? It doesn't work for you. Are they following protocol? Using the same diagnostic approach, even if you manage to be righteous, just as I would do it correctly, yet my formula works, yours doesn't seem to work as well. In fact, it's the same diagnosis and treatment principle. Skillfully choosing the right herbs is crucial. There are many options in Chinese medicine, and it involves formula combinations, adding or removing ingredients, or changing dosages of the same herbs. The results can vary drastically, which gives it greater flexibility. In other words, curing a person's illness. Practicing traditional Chinese medicine offers a greater sense of achievement. What? You feel I came up with this plan, but if Western medicine works, is it just following a protocol? The protocol says, you have to do it this way. Though you can tweak it a bit, the changes won't be that big. Another factor is the patient count. Before studying medicine, learn to be a good person. So, regarding numbers, medical skill is tied to this idea of quantity. You study great doctors, virtue in your medical classics, and you also have many ethics courses. I'll keep it brief from here. Let me focus on some key phrases, like being a good doctor. It's simple. Heaven, earth, benevolence, and integrity. Consider whether there's a simpler way to do things. Exactly. Treat others as you would like to be treated. If you can manage that, you're doing well, including your personal conduct. Now we'll cover some aspects of medical history. We'll explore how Chinese medical theory developed, beginning with its origins. So the formation of traditional Chinese medicine requires a foundation. What is the foundation? I reordered the sections. The first step is building up medical knowledge, which is essential. Accumulating medical knowledge is found overseas as well. China has it too. Why are we renowned for its ancient medicine? In the West, it gradually transforms. I believe it's related to the continuity of civilizations. Check out the 4 ancient civilizations. Only Chinese civilization remains. The other 3 major civilizations have largely vanished. Take as an example, the collapse of the Indus Valley Civilization. Modern Indian civilization isn't the same as ancient India. Therefore, you can only say that the Indus Valley Civilization never did. Chinese civilization has endured for over 5 millennia. Put another way, our civilization has never come to a halt. The other ancient civilizations did break down, since it never stopped. Therefore, what I've inherited is greater. Beyond culture, this Krantern also encompasses. It also includes the accumulated medical knowledge. Since the formation of traditional Chinese medicine is marked by the Yellow Emperor's inner canon, the Huangdi Neijing, before which Chinese medical practices were already rich with experience. When did this experience start accumulating? You could say it started with this person. It might even date back to early humans or modern animals. In the case of minor injuries or illnesses, animals have their own healing instincts. They don't simply await death. Many animals have instincts that help them survive, though it's quite basic. But by the time of the spring and autumn and warring states, the accumulation of medical knowledge had become quite extensive indeed. There was one aspect it demanded. How should we put it? Elevate medical experience into theory. Experience and theory differ. What is medical experience? For instance, there may be some elderly people today. These single-component remedies really do work. But if you ask him to explain how it works, he probably couldn't explain it. That's what we call medical experience. But real medicine applies such knowledge based on theory. For example, this clears heat. This method strengthens the yin. This method strengthens the spleen. You need to understand exactly how it works, so I can use it effectively. That's what makes up a real medical practice. But it's about the accumulation of medical knowledge. In fact, he took a different path, observing human life and natural phenomena. What is it to observe directly? Let's use the human body as an example. That means cutting open the human body to see how your organs are structured. Many misunderstand traditional Chinese medicine, thinking it offers no release. In fact, it provides freedom. At least during the era of the Yellow Emperor's inner canon, traditional Chinese medicine's anatomical knowledge matched or surpassed any other medical field, that of any other medicine, including Western. Our first medical text is the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Medicine. The first surviving Western medical text is the Hippocratic Corpus. Take a moment to compare these two texts. Our understanding of anatomy is quite good. Sometimes, it even matches modern anatomical knowledge. These measurements are highly accurate, based on direct observations. However, you may have questions about this. Given your direct observations, why did traditional Chinese medicine focus on anatomy decrease? Unlike modern medicine, go deeper into anatomy on a microscopic level. That's the issue I just mentioned. Chinese civilization hasn't interrupted. China's medical knowledge was accumulating, reaching a peak by the time of the emperor, the Yellow Emperor's era. If you relied on direct observations at this point, you'd only be able to explain some of it. Many things would still be unexplained. So, since you can't fully explain it, you have two options: wait and see. When my anatomy knowledge keeps getting better. Let me explain this again. When do you think C made big progress? Can you take a guess? It had to happen after the microscope was invented. Because you're just watching. Without a microscope, there's nothing to discuss. Put another way, you can conclude that Western medicine wasn't advanced before the microscope. You focused on structure and form. China has a wealth of medical experience going back so far. I couldn't know about the microscope. That came later. I couldn't afford to wait. Think about waiting from the spring and autumn period till the microscope was invented. That left me with no options. I could solve part of the issue here. For the remaining part, we need to find another approach. How should we do that? In fact, we can work backwards. Let's take the case of a person like this. Say we have a person with anemia. You would first notice their complexion. Pale skin, dull hair, frequent dizziness, light periods, and sometimes missed periods. You don't need to cut them open to check for blood flow. Is this just a guess? Well, I've guessed. I treated it with iron supplements. Wasn't I right? You can actually guess from the outside, like studying a map. If you really know your geology, you can tell from the terrain. You probably already know if there are any mines down there, and what kind they might be. Traditional Chinese medicine uses this method. Most of the time, by observation, we infer inner states from external conditions. We verify accuracy by testing in clinical practice. At this point, I can't afford to wait. I won't wait. Most of the time, we'll rely on holistic observation. Just like that. Combining medical experience requires tools. So, what are these tools? It was during the spring and autumn period, when many schools thrived. Many theories emerged. Which ones work best as tools? Such theories as yin-yang and the 5 elements. The SNCQ theory serves as an excellent framed for reasoning. We incorporated it and combined it with medical knowledge. Thus integrating it into a cohesive system. So, ancient philosophy permeates medicine. This provides the development of traditional Chinese medicine. Has its foundation in, unlike Western medicine. If you look at the history of Western civilization, you'll see their cultures constantly clashing, merging, breaking apart, and evolving. So throughout this period of change, medicine was undoubtedly influenced at its inception. When its civilization settled down, it developed rapidly, becoming a clear defining marker in establishing the TCM theoretical framework. Back then, this book was unknown to Chinese people. Now almost everyone knows about it. The Huangdi Nijing. Drew from various health and wellness texts. What about Huangdi Nijing's health preservation practices? And we'll discuss this wisdom and phenomenon later. When was the Huangdi Neijing written? It's generally thought to have originated during the Warring States, or Han period. Why is this book so thick? The key is that the Huangdi Neijing is made up of over 160 paper-like sections. It wasn't written by a single physician. It can be seen as a collective effort. This is likely very different from how we compile books today. Today, compiling a book means an editor gathers contributions from various writers. They then put the book together. This was probably a gradual compilation of various texts. So the book size is substantial. Got that? The Yellow Emperor's Inner Canon was not authored by an emperor. Ancient people loved doing this. What is this called? Think about the 5,000 years of Chinese civilization. An emperor couldn't have been from the Warring States or Han Dynasty. But once you publish a book, if you claim it's collectively written, who would read it? Ancient people knew how to grab attention by including a famous figure. If you want fame, who could be more famous than Emperor Shennong? So, they used the emperor. This is known as Huangdi Neijing. It consists of dialogues between the emperor and Duke Bai, in the form of dialogues between an emperor and a physician. Thus, the Huangdi Neijing was compiled into chapters. Current research places this in the Han Dynasty. However, some sections may date back to the Warring States, but most likely originated in the Han Dynasty. It is believed to have come after the Shiji. Why isn't it included in the Huangdi Neijing? Several decades later, after the Shiji, there is a book known as the Han Shu. This text is found in Huangdi Neijing, perhaps originating nearby. The Huangdi Neijing. It is now generally divided into two parts, Ling Shu and Su Wen. If general, medical texts, the Su Wen has more influence. The Ling Shu focuses on acupuncture. The Ling Shu has more influence. Most of the Ling Shu focuses on acupuncture. So, what do the Ling Shu and Su Wen cover? It establishes the framework of traditional Chinese medicine. For example, it covers physiology and pathology, diagnosis, treatment, maintenance, and prevention. Everything, from frameworks to concepts, is covered. But keep in mind, I'm talking about frameworks and concepts. These are detailed aspects of the content. Does anyone understand? But there aren't that many. Most of the key points are something like this. For example, the Huangdi Neijing establishes a framework like a pyramid. It covers all the guidelines. It includes all interconnected elements. So, what do later doctors do with this? He continually fills in various aspects. You've got the framework, but my deep experience is in this particular area. Filling this area might lead to a new school. Additionally, by filling this part, the imperial physicians continued. Its framework continually became more detailed, shaping modern, traditional Chinese medicine. Such a scenario is rare in scientific history. Why? For a discipline to have an unchanged framework for millennia is uncommon. I don't want to say it never happens, but it's rare. What does that mean? Traditional Chinese medicine matured early, and its principles stayed the same. That early development might also have some downsides. Later developments were slower. Note here that it is not one of the earliest texts on traditional Chinese medicine. Why does it say so? Books were written on bamboo strips in ancient times, before characters were invented. During the Han Dynasty, bamboo strips were limited in number and easy to lose, and they were hard to keep. If the string broke, it was ruined. Emperor Qin Shi Huang also burned books and buried scholars, leading to many losses. Is this claim accurate today? There may be issues. It's probably not the earliest extant text. Recent excavations, like those at Mawangdui, might challenge that. It includes books on acupuncture. These books predate the time of Emperor Ling. Can't call it the earliest surviving work on traditional Chinese medicine. You might call it the earliest surviving comprehensive work on traditional Chinese medicine. Adding 2 more characters could make it clearer. It serves as an overview.